The formula for manifesting what you actually want is ask, align, allow, and accept. It is important to know that we are manifesting all the time. Every thought or prolonged emotional state we experience and we are anchored to affects our reality in some way. The whole point of this recording is to explore how we can affect our reality, how we can manifest better outcomes in our lives, and how we can live more grounded and well rounded lives. In the coming moments, as you listen, I'll take you on a short trip where we'll touch base on the neuroscience behind manifesting and the metaphysical research behind it too. Then I'll give you a short explanation of the above mentioned formula, and I hope you can use it to your advantage. Now, there are universal laws that govern us all. And the ones that are commonly referred to in regards to manifesting are these. Number one is the law of attraction that states that like attracts like. Your dominant thoughts, emotions, and beliefs magnetize matching physical realities into your life. The next one is the law of vibration that states that everything in the universe is energy vibrating at a specific frequency. Your internal state determines your vibrational frequency, which then matches with external experiences. And then there's the law of cause and effect, which means that your thoughts and actions are the causes that naturally produce your physical circumstances as an effect. Now, let's get scientific here for a moment. There is no direct scientific evidence that validates these above mentioned universal laws as literal mechanisms for manipulating our reality and manifesting our desires into reality. Unfortunately, mainstream science widely considers the law of attraction and its counterparts to be pseudoscience. However, manifestation looks much more credible when we translate its mystical vocabulary into established neuroscience and psychology. Basically, we can woo-woo, so to speak, without being off with the fairies. Blending our spiritual mindset, using the universal laws as guiding tools, and engaging with concepts and protocols of neuroscience creates a highly effective strategy for personal growth. The universal laws provide the overreaching intention and vision, while neuroplasticity supplies the actual mechanism to build the physical neural pathways that drive the change. While it is the status quo in mainstream science that thoughts do not emit magical magnetic waves to rewire physics, our mind radically reshapes our personal reality through documented biological processes. It is good to understand that research into the frequency of thoughts and emotional states is divided into two entirely separate domains. One is peer-reviewed neuroscience, which measures actual electrical brain waves. The other one is metaphysical or alternative research, which assigns symbolic or holistic frequency values to emotions. And it is important to understand this because it gives a more complex, a more complete, a more nuanced picture of where we are at in our understanding as human beings in regards to frequency or vibration of our thoughts and emotional states. So, let's take a quick look at the first approach to this, the peer-reviewed neuroscience or brainwave oscillation, also known as neural oscillation. This refers to the rhythmic, repetitive patterns of electrical activity generated by the central nervous system, which originates from the synchronous firing of large groups of neurons communicating with each other. These electrical charges coordinate information transfer across different brain regions. In peer-reviewed neuroscience, thoughts and emotions are measured using electroencephalography, commonly known as EEG. The electrical signals between large group of neurons are called brain waves, and they are measured in hertz. What science has proven is that our brain shifts electrical frequency based on our cognitive and emotional states. Now, let's take a look at the other side of the coin, the metaphysical or alternative research side. Because in the spiritual and manifestation community, frequency does not refer to the EEG brainwaves. Instead, it refers to an energetic or consciousness scale, if you will. And since I'm very much in awe of Dr. David R. Hawkins, who spent over 20 years using applied kinesiology, muscle testing responses, to calibrate the energy field of various human emotions, and talked about his findings in detail in his book, Power versus Force, I'll use his extensive research as a reference again. I have done so in the past, as I've recorded a short exploration into living in our own personal heaven or hell, where I used the emotional spiral as a reference, and the emotional spiral is based on Dr. Hawking's work. Now, next, let's take a look at the real neuroscience behind manifestation. What spiritual practices called manifesting, neuroscience and psychology explains through a few primary mechanisms, and that's also important to understand to get a full picture. So, there is the reticular activating system, or RAS. Now, the RAS is a network of neurons in our brainstem acting as a gatekeeper for information, if you will. Our brain is bombarded with millions of bits of data every second of the day. And the reticular activating system filters out what it deems useless and highlights what we focus on. So, our RAS will suddenly alert us to opportunities, resources, and connections that were always there but previously ignored. Then there's neuroplasticity. We understand that our brain is malleable, and by deliberately repeating positive affirmations, for example, or using mental rehearsal and gratitude practices, we can physically rewire our neural pathways. Basically, if we expect bad things to happen, our brain actively seeks out evidence to prove us right. Our actions prime our mental processes, therefore, they create our reality. And then there is confirmation bias, self fulfilling prophecies, the placebo effect, and expectancy. We know that the placebo effect demonstrates that a strong belief in an outcome can cause real physiological and psychological changes. This applied to manifestation. Believing a goal is inevitable can lower our risk aversion, making us more likely to take the required action steps to achieve it. In short, while the universal laws aren't scientific facts, the mindset they encourage often works because it aligns our internal focus with our external actions and expectations. Now, with all that said, let's get back to the formula, the key to manifesting what you actually want. So, number one is to ask. Ask yourself a couple of important questions like, what do I really want? What do I want to achieve? What do I want to have, or what do I want to experience? Who do I want to become? Now, journaling prompts are helpful in this process, very helpful. A goals dumping list is also great, so you can get specific with your goals later, then make an action plan. Actually, I have a free downloadable resource for goal setting and action plan process on my website, so you can look for that. Feel free to use it. It is also important to note that sometimes we get in our own way, so to speak. And before we can get to our real desires, we need to bridge the gap between an old belief about attaining something we want and a new belief that actually supports the goal. But more on that later. I'll make a TikTok or Instagram post about this as an exercise. So follow me on those platforms and keep an eye out for that. The next part of the formula is to align. We must make sure that our internal processes are in alignment with the goals we wish to achieve, with the reality we wish to manifest. And in essence, this part of the formula is very much about our practices and our habits. We must align ourselves. The next part, the next component is to allow. We have to let go of the need of wanting to control every outcome, because the only thing we really have control over is ourselves. You're right. So our focus must be on establishing habits and systems and we must stick with these habits and systems. Control over our processes, our thoughts, our feelings and behaviors is our only focus. Priming ourselves to the fact that a positive outcome is inevitable and letting everything else unfold for us is how we allow, really. I hope that makes sense. Our reality will change as we go through this process, and the people around us might change as well. And some might go to be replaced with new connections and so on. So that is also an important aspect of this component. The next component is to accept, and this is important to understand. We can only receive fully if we can accept all the wonderful things that we are working towards. If we have mental or emotional blockages and we cannot receive, then it makes the process slower and less effective. Growing in our capacity to anticipate and accept the best possible outcomes is a vital part of that formula, and it requires a fair bit of growth. But basically, this is as simple as it gets. We are fully capable of manifesting wonderful results and outcomes in our lives. But it is a process and it takes work. There is no silver bullet solution to manifesting quickly and effortlessly. And just how much work it requires for us to achieve our goals and manifest wonderful things for ourselves will be different for each of us. But it is possible. We have neuroscience and psychology to back that. We have metaphysical and alternative research to back that. We have a variety of tools to help us along the way. Manifesting isn't magic. We are doing it all the time. We are doing it all the time. And if we aren't happy with the results or the outcome of our so-called manifestation, perhaps we should take a good look at our internal processes and our formula for manifesting. I hope this clears up a few things and that you find some peace and empowerment in my words. Personally, I do believe in miracles and unexpected positive turns. I absolutely do. I believe in the concept of deus ex machina, if you will, where an unsolvable conflict or crisis is suddenly resolved by an unexpected or unlikely occurrence. Absolutely. I also believe that we should always leave room for magic to happen. But I firmly believe that our actions and internal processes pave the way, and unless something is fated in our lives, we are responsible for the outcomes. That we can indeed affect our own lives in a positive, sustainable, and impactful way. And with all that said, I'll end this recording. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.